All right, here's what you need for beef stroganoff. I just use this is a roast beef, some kind of beef marbled. You want to make sure you have a little bit of grease, a fatty part on it, and that's going to be cut off and then separately. And then, yeah, white wine. I often use Riesling. The mushrooms, I use Dijon mustard, heavy whipping cream. Normally it calls for crème fraîche or something like that, but you can also use whipping cream. This is peppermill, and I use chili salt and some sugar, a little bit of parsley. And over here, I like onions. I usually use quite a bit of onions, so maybe 2 red ones, 2 white ones, some cloves of garlic, and pickles. Don't use dill pickles, just use like what they call crunchy gherkins or whatever, just regular pickles, 2 or 3 or something like that. Some stock or some broth, the spätzle, some noodle. You can also use some other pasta, egg pasta or something. And yeah, I'll as I go along, I'll show you what I'm actually doing as I prepare this. So I cut up all the ingredients. I cut the meat. This is the fat particles, and I try to dice them up in small bits. And this is the rest of the meat cut up in like slices like that. And I forgot I like to use something green in it too. So this is some spring onion. Alternative would be leek. These are the diced pickles. They make themselves known in the dish, so I don't want to overdo it. The garlic and the mushrooms. I like to keep the mushrooms a little bit chunkier bits because I'm going to fry them quite hard. The broth, the onions. Oh yeah, and I need some oil to fry the meat. And I'll start with frying the meat really hard in this pot, and then the rest. So I'm frying that beef on quite high heat. You want to make sure it gets brown, and you see the brown stuff on the bottom of the pot. You all need that for the flavor. So I'm gonna turn those around, and then I'll take them out once they're nicely browned. Now that's the fried meat, nice and brown, and I put as you can see, I put the fatty stuff in the pan now, and I let that fry for a little bit, and then I'm going to this. I'm now adding I'll wait a little bit until this is quite brown, and all that brown stuff in the bottom of the pan, that's gonna make a fantastic gravy. I'm adding the onions here. I'm going to turn off the heat to about 7 of 9. And I'm also going to add the mushrooms now because I really like them strongly fried. You see they're a bit chunkier. You really get the heat going on that. I can even turn it up a notch to 8, and make sure they brown nicely. Once they're quite brown, I'm going to add the garlic later because you don't want to over fry the garlic, it gets bitter. And then I'll start with the wine, and I'll get going from there. Okay, now it's quite hot, and you can see the brown stuff on the bottom of the pan. I'm going to add the wine now. I usually use at least 1/3 of the bottle, and then you get this stuff off the bottom of the pan, and you can see how that gravy is totally brown from the stuff, the fried aromas. This gives really nice flavor. Make sure I scratch off all the stuff that was sticking to the bottom of the pan, and that gives gravy the color and the flavor. So yeah, that looks good. All right, I had totally forgotten about putting garlic in the pot. I wanted to fry that a little bit, so I'm frying that separately now because I don't want to go it in there without any frying. In a little butter together with the, I took the white part from the spring onion because that needs to cook a little bit, and the fresh part of the green onion is I'm going to put in later, just briefly before I serve it, maybe 10-15 minutes. So let that fry that. Then I'll add also the pickles to here, let that simmer down so the alcohol goes out. Then I'll add the broth and the whipped cream. I need to still add about a teaspoon of Dijon mustard, salt, pepper it, a little bit of sugar, and then the cream and also the parsley I'm going to put in later, just before it's being served. And then I'll put the meat back into. I guess I can throw that in now. All right. Okay, everything's in now except for the spring onion, the green part, and the parsley. It's still quite fluid. I let it simmer down a bit, and then if it's still too fluid, I'm going to use a bit of starch with some water to thicken it a little bit. And then I'll have to still taste it. If I need extra salt and pepper, I put some salt and pepper in. And yeah, maybe I'll add a bit of tarragon. I like that. And you know, with the herbs, whatever, you can put in whatever you like. And everything I ballpark with the amount of cream or whatever. It's maybe half a pint of cream. It was not quite a pint of stock, and yeah, it was a good third of a bottle of wine. And yeah, that's it. I hope it tastes good. It should be tasting good, I think. And another thing I forgot, I like to actually put celery root in a lot of stuff like that. So I just chopped it up and diced it up and frying it in a little bit of butter, and you can add it anytime, and it gives a really nice flavor. Now with the parsley, that's one of the last things that goes in. I separate the leaves from the stems, and the stems actually have most of their aroma, so don't discard them, but they can go into the sauce earlier. So I'm going to chop those up and put those in, and then the last thing is going to go in is the leaves are going to be chopped up. Okay, stems of parsley chopped up, and they're going into the pot right now. The sauce already cooked down quite nicely. It's a bit thicker now. It got also a bit darker, and the parsley is in there, the stems, and the leaves go in the last together with the spring onion. I'm gonna still have to put those in. And another thing I'm gonna put in, since I have it, this is it's a German herb. It's called Liebstöckel. It's also called Magikraut. I think I looked it up on Google. It says lovage or something like that. It's quite aromatic, so you can only use a bit because otherwise it'll overpower. And it has this Maggi flavored taste, and so that'll go with that. So I'll put a little bit of that in, but not too much. So as you can see, lots more parsley compared to this. Okay, this is all done now. I'm just gonna put the parsley in now, last, and just stir it up. As you can see, I also put a couple bay leaves in that I forgot to mention. So this is all ready to be served now.